going through this, it's really impossible to do any true study of Jesus without looking at his work on the cross. This really was the purpose for which he came. So whereas some of the things that we've talked about are important, things like the incarnation, his names, the various aspects of his earthly ministry, and all of these things are really important, we really are moving into what I would consider, what many consider to be, or call, or not consider, but call the bottom line of our faith. Really what our faith rests upon. And we started this last week by looking at the crucifixion. And before that, the humiliation of Christ leading up to his crucifixion. So our whole study has been kind of pushing us towards this moment. The moment of looking at the incredibly important work of Jesus Christ. So as we looked at the crucifixion last week, we looked at it from a few different angles. We first looked at it from the illegalities of the trials of Jesus. Right? He was tried before he was crucified. They couldn't just randomly crucify people, but rather there needed to be a guilty verdict for him to be able to be put to death in this way. Now, we noted that any trial that can condemn Christ of anything needed to be illegal, needed to be unfair and unjust, because Christ was perfect. There was nothing that anyone could truly hold to his account and say that it was wrong. Because again, he lived a perfect, sinless life. So yes, the trials were illegal. They had no choice but to be illegal. We looked at many of those illegalities together. We're not going to go through each individual one this evening, but there were several that shows that really Christ never should have reached the point of the cross in the first place, but his trial should have been tossed out the window at every level or dismissed because of all of these things that took place that should not have taken place. But not only did we look at the illegalities, but as we actually moved into looking at the crucifixion, we looked at the immense suffering of Jesus. Yes, there was physical suffering. We are very well aware of the physical suffering, but there was also other forms of suffering too. The main one that we noted was the suffering that was inflicted as he was separated from the Father. When he took on the sin of the world, which again was another kind of emotional part of suffering. Again, he had no sin, then took on the sin of the world. When that took place, the Father had no choice but to turn his back on him, and because of this sin, and that was kind of the main suffering that we looked at, and kind of the one that we focused on. But there were several aspects of suffering when it came to the crucifixion. But nevertheless, the crucifixion was necessary, and Christ endured all of these things for us. He did this out of his love for us so that we may have fellowship with him, have an eternal home in heaven that could live a life that is pleasing to him. And one important thing that we want to make sure we understand with this is that when it came to the crucifixion of